I'm Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. I'm talking to Jacob Liberman. Was it your first book, Take Off Your Glasses and See?
That was the second book. The first book was Light Medicine of the Future.
Really a revolutionary, would you say optometrist or light doctor or visionary?
I would say just an ordinary sweet guy.
An ordinary sweet guy. Yes. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But this book, Jacob has a new book out called
Luminous Life, How the Science of Light Unlocks the Art of Living. What this is about, which is really interesting, is it's not about healing technologies and fixing and all that. It's about uncovering the primal source of life, which is light, and noticing that light guides our life exactly the same way as it guides the life of a plant.
Wait, I want to talk to you about that. Let me absorb that. That's quite a big concept. So say it again.
So you know when the sun comes up
Yes.
and touches a plant,
Yes.
the plant turns towards the light and literally aligns itself with it to get maximum nourishment from it.
Receptivity, yes.
Humans have the same experience. Literally our cells, all of our cells have eyes that can detect and respond to light. Now, let me just add to that something. Light is invisible.
Light.
You cannot see light. What we experience is brightness. So when I say that a cell responds to light, what I'm saying is that our cells respond to invisible signals well before we are aware of them, guiding our life, guiding where we're moving to. And so one of the examples I often speak about is we often use this expression, oh, it caught my eye.
Right.
The it is the light. It catches the eye turns towards the light as a reflex, in other words, no effort. And then in that moment with what catches our eye, we sort of get a download of what the next step of our journey is.
So how do we turn towards the light? Is it sunlight you're talking about turning to? What is the light we are turning to as human beings?
Sunlight.
Sunlight.
Yes, sunlight.
Okay.
But there is no difference between sunlight and the light we think of as spiritual light. It's all the same light. See, we think sunlight is like a physical thing.
Yes.
Because we experience brightness. No.
From the sun.
Yeah. It's the energy coming off of the sun, that light, is not something we actually see. We just perceive brightness by day and darkness by night. But at both times, we're being influenced by that light. Every cell in your body is continually changing throughout the day in response to the light overhead.
Would you say be in the sunlight as much as you can? Is that why you live in Hawaii?
I would say that being in the light for specific periods of time each day, if possible, without clothing on, or at least large areas of your body unclothed, is probably the healthiest thing that you can do.
Direct light or indirect light, it doesn't matter.
Direct, be under the sun. But I would say to people, start with a minute or two. Build up by a minute a day. Everything very gradual. I mean, to give you an idea, we know that light is involved in the synthesis of vitamin D.
Right.
Well, if I say vitamin D, well, it's just a vitamin. Vitamin D is one of the most important vitamins which is synthesized through our interaction with sunlight. Why is it important? When you have an ample amount of vitamin D, your chances of getting cancer are significantly less. Heart disease, significantly less. Diabetes, all the diseases of civilization, the diseases that are now epidemic proportions because we're living inside and we're spending all of our days in front of computers, and all of that stuff is reduced dramatically when we have ample amounts of light.
Well, is it true that we get 90% more sunlight when we're totally naked because the genitals can absorb light even quicker and easier than the, regular surfaces of the body? I heard that. We increase our vitamin D content by letting our totally be naked.
I think if you're totally undressed, you're going to get more vitamin D synthesis, because vitamin D synthesis is related to large segments of the body, the legs, I don't know about the genitals. I'm not familiar with that. But I'm sure that those areas of the body are going to be involved in the process just like every other part. One of the things that's interesting that you just mentioned, one of the things that they're doing now for impotency is they're using near infrared radiation underneath the genitals to actually increase potency. When I heard about the research from the guy that did it, I said, doesn't that mean that we're actually deficient in light, in sunlight? He said, probably the case. So there could be some truth to exactly what you just said.
Near infrared light is what?
Near infrared light is part of the spectrum, the electromagnetic spectrum that comes off the sun. It's not visible. It's adjacent to the red end of the spectrum. But what's critical about near infrared is this. You remember many, many years ago, I had turned Paul on to a non-eating.
Are you hearing that? Okay, sorry. Oh, right. Many, many years ago, you turned Paul Lowe, our good mutual good,
onto a non-eating process.
Right. What was it called?
It was called the no-eating process.
Yeah, the no-eating process.
Yeah. So, of course, we all did that, and it was quite an interesting process.
21 days, wasn't it?
21 days was the beginning of it.
Right.
I did it for 9 weeks. I think Paul did it even longer.
Yeah.
What's interesting is we did it at the time. We knew something was going on, but we had no idea how. And there was no science behind it. Now there's actual science behind it. What we know now is that only 1/3 of the energy that your cells create has to do with the food you eat.
Oh, really?
2/3 is directly the light you ingest. And the portion of the spectrum that creates that huge increase in production of ATP, of energy by your cells, is the near infrared.
I see.
So the near infrared can really vitalize your body, increase the healing process of just about any condition. They're using it now to deal with tinnitus, with macular degeneration, with potency issues, but they're also using it for Parkinson's, for Alzheimer's,
Can you get that from the saunas, the near infrared saunas? Have you used those at all?
Most of the infrared saunas are far infrared.
Oh.
There are some near infrared saunas, so yes, you could get benefit from there. But near infrared devices are being sold over the counter on Amazon and so on. And yes, I predict within a few years, everyone's going to have one at home.
But contrary to what you're saying, have you ever done the darkroom process where it's total absence light for 24 hours or 3 weeks?
Sure.
And what is the effect of being in the darkroom?
Oh, you go crazy. No, you're laughing, but I'm being serious. In ancient times, when you were dealing with violent prisoners, what did they do? They put them in the dungeon. Why? That was the darkest place you could go. When you have people who are incarcerated, who are violent, they put them into silent, into seclusion.
Isolation.
Isolation. They don't see the light a day, but only maybe a half hour a day. When you take light out of our lives, in the same way as when you take light out of a plant's life, we begin to contract. Not only do we become depressed, like people in northern latitudes that get seasonal affective disorder, but our body doesn't know the difference between day and night. And so we really start to lose groundedness. So now let's talk about your 21-day or your
Darkroom experience.
Darkroom experience. So that is what happens when you eliminate light. If, however, you enter that kind of a situation, not because you're forced to be in there, but you're invited. When you take away the light, you take away the bulk of our stimulation.
Right.
When you take away the stimulation, all of a sudden what you're left with is the mind. You're left with the chatter and everything else that goes on, which is essentially what happened when we did the no-eating process. You really weren't allowed to have interaction. You weren't exercising. You weren't reading. You were just in a room during the day. So the outside world is gone, but the inside world is very magnified. And all of a sudden, you really become aware of how we are all addicted to doing.
And to
And
the
when you-
mind, right? And to chatter.
Right. So there's benefit to that process as an experience to get more in touch with yourself.
So this book is called, again,
Luminous Life,
uh-huh,
How the Science of Light Unlocks the Art of Living.
The Art of Living. Let's talk about that end of it, because you, we met through spiritual experiences.
Sure.
And so there's this light that we're attaining, but how does that affect our spiritual evolution? Talk about our awakening as conscious beings in that context.
If you read any level of spiritual text throughout history, they consistently speak of consciousness as light. Biblically, they speak of God as light. Physicists speak of light as the ground of reality. So, you know, when people are not feeling so well, they say, oh, lighten up. When you have a great idea, they said, oh, a light bulb just went on. There's all of these expressions historically we've used about light being related to health, radiant health, a luminous life. So there's some inseparability between what we call light and what we call life. They're like two sides of the same coin. If light is the ground of reality, then light is the formless and life is the formed. Just two sides of the exact same coin. How does it impact our life? When we discover that our lives are being guided by an animating force, which I call light.
We're being guided. I
we're
don't know what
being
you mean
guided.
by guided. I mean,
Okay. We have plants here.
yes, we do.
What's causing them to grow up?
The light. Okay. The sun.
If the light was over there, would they be growing this way?
No,
They're always growing towards the light.
so the
aren't
guiding force is the light.
they? The light is the guiding
Okay,
force.
I got that.
And it literally guides all of our physiology as well. There are times of the day you get hungry. That's because of the light. There's times when you have to go to the bathroom. The light is triggering something there. Throughout the day, you have a light cycle and a dark cycle. Every part of your physiology is inseparable from that. So the reason you get up in the morning is because the light comes up. That's when you're really energized. That's when you're making things happen. Then the light goes down and you start getting sleepy, and then you go to sleep. And during the night, when you're resting, your whole body is regenerating itself. So all of those functions, from the activity of the day and the regeneration of night, those are inseparable from light. To give you an example, in my first book, 26 years ago, Light Medicine of the Future, after I shared all the science behind it, I said the primary purpose of light is to guide us into a state of oneness with life. October of 2017, the Nobel Prize was won by 3 U.S. scientists because they discovered the molecular mechanism, the mechanism within our cells that is continually reading that light and dark and triggering all the physiological changes.
Oh, really?
So what I'm speaking about is science, and how that science is now beginning to uncover what's happening in our life. And so what is a luminous life? A luminous life is like when the light is able to come through us unimpededly. Give you an example.
Yes, do, because how do we unimpede it?
So if I had a clear piece of glass
Yes.
and it was perfect, it had no imperfections in it, and the sun was shining from this side, the light that went in and the light that went out would be exactly the same. No light would be lost. Now let's imagine the piece of glass was smudged, or it had a few little imperfections in it. Some of the light would be absorbed, some would be reflected, some would be bent off to the side, so less light would come through.
Yes.
If you looked at depictions of people from the past that had awakened, you'll notice they all have light around their heads.
Yes.
That wasn't some artistic add-on. These people were bright. They were illumined.
Their auric field was illuminated.
Right, and what that means is the light is just coming through. There's nothing impeding that light. So the imperfections in the glass are like the ideas of our mind. The ideas literally impede the flow of this energy. And we believe that these ideas are real. They say, oh, that's my belief.
Right.
But belief means the opposite of truth.
Because
It's
does
just virtual.
right. It's all conjecture. If you believe something, it
Just an idea.
yes, right.
It's a continually changing thing.
I call belief make believe. You want to make believe this, you want to make believe that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this truth that I'm speaking about occurs when the light just moves right through us unimpededly. And I can't tell you, all I can tell you is that life is getting sweeter.
For you or for you?
All I can speak about is for me at this moment. Life is getting sweeter. That doesn't mean that sometimes I don't feel well. It doesn't mean that sometimes I don't wake up and, there's tumult inside the head. There's worry going on. All of those things go on, but something is less identified with it. So we all have the same experience, and what happens is when we begin to recognize that we're not driving the car, that something is actually moving us. For instance, you have an interest in asking provocative questions.
Because I want to know.
Yeah, but that's your reason for being. See, you're not doing this because, it's a nice job and
No,
so
it's
on.
definitely not.
You have to do this. This is right. And for me, I have to do this. I'm not here because, it's a big moneymaker.
it's not the
10,000
person-
people came,
It's not the personality. It's something bigger than the personality.
It's our nature.
Yes.
It's what we're here. So how does this delightment, if you will, exhibit itself? We're doing what we love. We're loving what we do. And life just is. And it's very sweet. And it's not without the difficulties of life. And yet there's something very exciting about it and something very inspiring about it.
So you've dropped into a place in yourself that rests in peace, that non-dual place, some people might call it.
It's a place of trust. It's one thing to speak of trust, and it's another thing to be able to lay down and take a nap and fall asleep in the palms of trust. I was sharing this morning at the talk that I don't prepare anything.
Right.
And it's not that I don't prepare anything because I'm really skilled as a speaker. I don't prepare anything because then I miss out on the surprise. And at this moment of my life, there's no choosing about it. I can't do it any other way. I must come in, to use your word, naked.
Right.
I have to come in that way because we're fully human in that way. And, people ask questions, and some of them I can share something because it's something that I know by heart. But half the questions I said, I can't respond to that question. That's nothing I'm aware of or know about.
But was there one moment where that changed for you, where you went from, a thinking person, preparing, doing all the things, and then, boom, I'm just being? 'Cause I think
There's millions of moments.
But you talked about that moment with your eyes, and
That was a big instance, but there's been many big instances.
where you just
This moment is an instance. Why? We're lost in speaking about what we love, which is the underpinnings of life. This is about as good as it gets.
okay.
So this
I
is
like
a
that.
moment that's launching the next moment. There are epiphanies that we have
Right.
that are significant in our lives. But I think what is more real for me right now is that each day is filled with some of these epiphanies and I mean, every time I have, one of the things that I do is I mentor a small number of clients, and we speak on Skype. Most of them I've never actually met other than Skype. It's so delicious. It's not a student-teacher relationship or a doctor-patient. It's two people of the same height who happen to be on the same journey, holding hands for a certain period of time. And it's so lovely. And you know, what's nice about it is I don't see these folks as being defective, you know, needing to be fixed. And I cannot tell you, just coming to a place where I see that everyone is just where they need to be, it's so easy for my life, but it's so powerful for their life, because we're so used to feeling like we're not enough. And so when someone actually just naturally loves you and sees you just as the sweet person you are, something could just start crying, because it's like, oh my God, I've waited my whole life for that particular moment, you know. And that for me is what my life is about right now. You know, it's
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Ram Dass says we're all walking each other home.
Yeah.
We're back to the source, back to the center.
You know, I saw Ram Dass at a restaurant that we obviously both frequent. We've known each other
in Maui, right?
Yeah, we've known each other for many, many years. But we speak very infrequently. I was sitting at the table next door, and he came in. It was maybe an entourage of 12 people at his table. He was sitting there on his wheelchair, and he looked at me, and we looked at each other, and he went like this to me, and I gave him that back, and you know, we embraced a second. He said, "Sweetheart, it's so nice to see you." And what I love about him, there's no self-importance. You know, everyone thinks he's special except him.
Right.
He's just an ordinary mensch, you know. I think that's a sweet place.
Yeah. So this is the essence of the book and your life, and
the essence of the book is that there's a guiding force, a literal guiding force, not just a spiritual one.
An actual physiological, physical guiding force.
Yes.
Okay.
And I speak about that as a foundation, and then I speak about presence, not as something that we're doing, but as a state that we're brought into when that guidance is working through us. And then I speak about consciousness in a different sort of way, not a way that is against what was, you know, what other people say, but something that includes both. And the book shares, it shares practical pieces, but I want to speak about that because everybody says, can you tell me something practical? Because they think that when you're just speaking or sharing something that isn't an exercise, it's valueless. Actually, when the flow of communication is coming through us rather than from us, those words have medicinal value. They're incredibly powerful. It's not so much what we're doing that creates the impact. It's the fact that we have an epiphany and all of a sudden we see something differently. So
practically.
Yeah, so for instance, I spend some time in the book speaking about breathing. And I share a little simple, you could call it a meditation, but it's only done for 1 minute. And I talk about, rather than doing an exercise for 20 minutes, nobody has 20 minutes these days, why not do a moment when you first open your eyes in the morning? I talk about the fact that a wonderful place to meditate for a moment is when you're sitting on the toilet. That you use a moment here and a moment there, and when you're driving your car in traffic, and you don't do anything. You're just aware of this fundamental rhythm that's expanding and contracting. So I introduce, you could say, awareness expanding experiences for 1 minute intervals.
1 minute.
Just
That's
1
all
minute.
you need.
Yeah, just as a little reminder here, a little reminder here, a little reminder here. And after a while, those reminders become integrated into our lives. For instance, this morning, I spoke about the fact that I just follow whatever calls me, whatever enters my eye, catches my eye. It's what I do. So you come to my house during the day. Most of the day is not sitting and writing books and working with clients and meditating. Most of the day, washing the dishes, paying the bills, making the bed, all that stuff that we say, yeah, that's unimportant stuff. Same way I wash the dishes is the way I care for my sweetheart, is the way that I love my children.
Really, presence in each of those moments.
That's it. That's it. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So why just be present, if you will, for 20 minutes when you're meditating? There's no difference between that and leaving the dishes clean, leaving the counters dry, making a beautiful meal. Life is continually inviting you to attend to something. That is presence. There's nothing to practice. Life is the greatest practice we have for those kinds of activities. So
I get it. One question I wanted to ask you that I heard in your talk, when you had a level of epiphany, you had clear sight, but you went and tested your eyes and your eyes hadn't changed, and yet you could see 300% better.
right.
How do you explain that?
Well, you see, if we're seeing through our eyes
Yes.
and your eyes don't change, you wouldn't be seeing better.
Right. So
But if you are seeing better and your eyes haven't changed, then maybe our hypothesis about that fact that we see with our eyes, maybe we need to question that. At least look. So that experience opened up some part of me that started looking. What is it that is seeing?
Yes.
Keep in mind that this phenomenon has now resided in my life for 42 years.
You still don't wear glasses?
I don't wear any glasses. I'm 70 years old.
And you did before that.
For 9.5 years.
Right.
And I still have I have more astigmatism today.
If you measure it, but
if you
you're not
measure it.
seeing it, and if you're not seeing through your eye, what are you seeing through? Is the question.
Well, it's not what am I seeing through. You see, we believe that it's us doing the seeing. And my sense is that there's a universal seer. There's something that is noticing everything. You know, we have sensations in the body. Something is aware of them. We have sensations in the outside world. Something is aware of them. We have sensations inside in this world nobody's ever seen called the mind. Something is aware of them. What is the something that is aware of them? That's the thing that is noticing. That's the seer. It's not the eye. The eye is merely a physical organ that allows light to enter.
So you had a switch there in your nature, in your reality, where it was no longer the person, the individual, the personality. Something is seeing through you,
Right.
and that has clear vision.
Right. And that thing that has clear vision sees everything. It's omniscient. It's everywhere at the same time. It's just a field of possibility. It's the same seer that the Bible calls God.
Right.
I'm not a religious person. All I'm sharing is that throughout history, people have spoken about this. Most of them were mystics. Some of them are scientists. All I'm saying is, I don't have to understand it. I'm having the direct experience of it, and the direct experience is unquestionable. There is no part of me that's questioning this experience that's going on.
Doesn't need to, right?
And I don't need to prove it to anyone. I can convince someone of something that I'm experiencing.
So if someone wanted to take off their glasses and have that, how would they do that? Like have that experience?
Well, I don't know if they would have that experience. That's
Right.
first of all. But I can give you some suggestions. For instance, if you wear glasses and you're wearing them all the time, try something. When you come home, Remove your glasses when you open the door and put them in a little basket. You're not going to bump into the walls in your own house regardless of the strength of your prescription. You will not miss where the bathroom is. You will not be able to see the person that you're living with. So where you feel totally safe, do a short experiment, 5 minutes. Notice how you feel. Notice all the feelings that come up. Oh my God, I'm not going to recognize someone. Oh, what if I don't see them in public? They're going to think that I'm being this or that. Oh my God, how will I get along? All these fears come up. But you're at home. You have nothing to fear right here. So you just allow that. You do a little 5-minute or 2-minute experiment. Then an hour later, maybe you extend it for an extra minute. Then when you get comfortable doing that, so when you come home each day, you leave your glasses at the door, after a while, you start to notice, oh my God, I can cook dinner, I can find my bed.
But you're not seeing any better, sharper.
No, wait, no,
okay.
it's not true.
Okay, maybe
you actually are.
Okay.
What happens is that when you remove your glasses, within very short order, you can measurably increase your visual acuity. You don't have to take my word for it. You can download an eye chart from the web, put it on the wall, and check yourself. Within a half an hour, you'll be seeing better than you did when you first took your glasses off.
That is very interesting, isn't
okay?
it? Isn't
So
it, Michael?
now, the next thing is, you come home, you know you can function in your own house. Maybe you walk around your house now, just to see what that feels like.
Outside, walk around your house. Okay.
Maybe you walk down the block a little bit. You keep expanding the space. And then there's a lot of websites now that sell glasses very inexpensively. If you can speak to someone that can show you how to reduce the prescription just a little bit, you order something that's very slightly weaker. I don't mean slightly weaker where you say, oh my God, I can't see. No, so slightly weaker that the only thing that it does is soften the world and soften you at the same time. And the response of that softness is that when you put them on, something goes, ah. And that ah actually causes a further reduction. What you get in touch with is that when you remove your glasses, you feel out of control. You feel out of touch. You feel like you're not going to be able to function. What I've come to notice is that those same feelings that come up when one removes their glasses are exactly the same feelings they had just prior to the first time they got their glasses.
Oh,
So the
interesting.
glasses literally anesthetize, they freeze into place these feelings of insecurity, of feeling out of control that were there before our vision contracted. Why did our vision contract? Because we were in a contracted state. So now as you get in touch with these feelings, not as a child, but as an adult, and you realize, oh, there's actually nothing to fear at this moment, then all of a sudden everything begins to shift. And you can get very significant improvements in eyesight with no change in prescription. So you just gradually reduce the prescription, and you see how far this journey will take you. You may not be able to eliminate your glasses, but almost everyone can reduce the prescription.
Amazing. This is basically outlined in your book, Take Off Your Glasses and See.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
What else do you have planned for yourself or in the future? Where are you going? Is it just this journey unfolding into the unknown?
What am I doing? I feel like I have to connect with the people.
And you are.
You know, it's not about marketing on the web or getting a lot of followers on social media. That's okay, but there's nothing like the real thing, baby. You know, there's nothing like sitting with a group of people, having a heart-to-heart conversation, someone coming up to you afterwards and saying, wow, that really touched my heart, or whatever. That's about as good as it gets. That's the ultimate prosperity without an extra cent in your pocket.
Well, I'm happy you called me
today.
to share some of your life experience.
It's because you're a sweetheart.
No, and we've known each other a long time, and
And I mean it, you're a sweetheart. That's why I called.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. So the book again is
Luminous Life,
Luminous Life,
How the Science of Light Unlocks the Art of Living.
the Art of Living, which is, how would you sum up the art of living? Everything we just said, would you say that?
Just what we're having right this moment. The indescribable love of just being here. That's the art of living.
Jacob Lieberman. What is your website?
JacobLieberman.org, and that's Liberman. Come to this site. It's a lovely site to see, and there's nobody trying to sell you anything. It's just fun to see it.
And Lieberman is life man, isn't it? Lieber.
It's man of love.
Man of love. Lieber. Oh,
Lieber.
Lieber.
Ich liebe dich.
Jacob Lieberman, Alan Steinfeld for New Realities. And if you have any questions, email me at newrealities@earthlink.net. And I've dropped into a place here with you, Jacob.
I guess it's contagious. Thank God it's not the flu.
It's better than that.
Better than the
It's
flu.
life itself.
Yeah.
Thanks.